Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm kind of hearing an echo back at me. Are you getting a good enough response? Oversight should be responsible for public accounts. Oversight should be the responsibility of the public accounts. Past 3 years. How can this committee going to provide it? Okay, guys, we're going live. Hey, how are you going? Great. All right. Guys, good afternoon, Tobago. Good afternoon to our viewing public. Today, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you to the IDA's presser for November the 26th. I am Kate Trotman, and with me today, I have the political leader, Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus, and we'll be chatting with you on a few topics well. We'll be addressing the issues concerning autonomy, a hot buzz in the air at the moment. We'd look at the recent JSC findings that exposes the minority leaders' weaknesses within an inadequate system. We'll also address the proposed new salary for our leaders. And finally, we'll address some general elections issues, sharing with you the IDA's insights and its expectations. So again, welcome to you all. So let me start first with the issue of autonomy. This has been a very hot topic in the air recently. So much so that people are anticipating the ringing of the election bell very soon. But let's look at this issue very carefully. We have before us 2 bills. The Tobago Island Government Bill and the Tobago Constitution Amendment Bill 2020. And these bills are related to Tobago's constant cry for autonomy. Tobagonians have long called for greater autonomy, greater equity, and self-governance within the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, in 2014, Tobagonians articulated a very clear vision of what autonomy for us meant in a historic convention. And in that convention, they presented 11 key demands. 5 of those critical areas are equity in the status between the islands. In other words, equity between Trinidad and Tobago. The removal of government dominance or cabinet dominance especially, and the override of decisions made in Tobago by the Tobago administration. Of critical importance also was a legal framework that provided a wider level of participation for the society in the decision-making of the Tobago administration. Tobagonians highlighted the need to control the inter-island transport system that should reside in Tobago. And what was also of critical importance to us and seems to be an area of contention, especially recently, is the definition of Tobago's borders, including the internal borders between Trinidad and Tobago. So what we have to ask ourselves, are these 2 bills that are before Parliament, do they satisfy Tobago's call for autonomy within the Republic, the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago? Let's examine these bills a little bit more carefully. The Tobago bills aim to recognize Tobago as a political entity providing for the Tobago Island government, lawmaking powers, and executive council. However, these provisions fall short of delivering and establishing true equity between Trinidad and Tobago. It does not allow for us to come to the table as equal partners. The structure remains significant. In this structure that we have and in the structure that is being presented in these bills, significant oversight still remains with the cabinet and central government, especially in the areas of financial matters and fiscal review committees, which rests with the cabinet. And notice I'm saying the cabinet and not Parliament. And the cabinet comprises ministers from the winning party. So here we are having a political party, so to speak, which dominates your cabinet, can make decisions that rescind any decisions Tobago may make. So here you're giving us in one hand, and it seems you're taking it back in another. The removal of cabinet dominance and override of the decisions that may be made by Tobago. So while the bills increase Tobago's governance power, it says it's giving us the ability to make laws, the cabinet has still the right to override these decisions, and especially under the guise of national security issues or national interest. In fact, from an administrative perspective, the Executive Council operates subject to the function of the powers of cabinet under Section 75. And I want us to recognize that these very provisions undermines the very autonomy we are saying these bills will be giving to Tobago. What is also not covered, it seems, is a mechanism that allows for wider participation of the Tobago public in decision making. The Tobago bills include provision for the Tobago Island government to have legislative and executive authority. However, the bills lack a mechanism for direct participation by Tobagonians in the decision-making process. There is no clear framework for community involvement in governance, no formal role for civil society, for village councils, for community councils to be able to articulate the positions of their constituents. So you as a grassroots individual, me as a grassroots individual on the ground, the average citizen, there is no mechanism with teeth that allows for the Tobago person, the Tobago citizen, to input into the decision-making process. The Tobago bills also fail to transfer management and control of the inter-island transport system, something that has seemed to be an area of concern for Tobagonians even way back. This significant shortcoming, given the critical role that transport plays in Tobago's economic development and the connectivity with Trinidad, is rarely to our detriment. And we get to the hotbed item: boundaries and nautical mile discussion. This seems to be something brewing in the air that every time we come to the point of deciding on a definition for these two islands that establish them as entities to set up true partnership, there is always some contention. And the contention that is brewing now is that any talk, absolutely any talk of defining Tobago, accordingly assigning its boundaries, is talk of secession. And this is a position that seems to be espoused quite vociferously by the People's National Movement. And I want to take the opportunity to call them out on it, because this is very disingenuous. Why is it, in trying to define what is Tobago and what is Trinidad, that is an air of secession? And when they very well know there are examples globally where defining one's borders within a multi-unit type country arrangement never normally speaks to secession, but it normally speaks to an internal arrangement for the management of its resources and for better accountability of what each partner in the union that makes up a country brings to the table. We are oftentimes, as Tobagonians, told that we don't contribute anything to the national purse, and that we constantly come cap in hand, begging for something from the national purse. How does that make us as Tobagonians feel? How does that work on the psyche? Tobagonians do not come hand to mouth. Tobagonians are proud people who want to know we can contribute meaningfully to national development. So for those of us who are championing the cause for defining Tobago's borders, we're not talking secession. We're talking about being able to clearly delineate Tobago, its boundaries, Trinidad, its boundaries, so we know what each partner is bringing to the relationship. If we're talking equity and equality of status in partnership in a twin island republic state, we must know what each person can bring to the table. So talk of defining Tobago's borders is contextualized by the fact we want to know what each person is bringing to the table, so there is no discussion about underfunding of any one of the partners. An area of contention seems to be the fact that we are suggesting using the median line to delineate the borders between Trinidad and Tobago. But the median line is an internationally accepted way of creating borders between partnering units that make up a multi-unit country. It has nothing to do with secession, and it does not impact on the international laws of the sea. It doesn't. We have examples in Canada. We have examples in the UK with Scotland. We have examples in Australia. And none of these have broken up the continents and the countries that they represent. What they have provided is internal boundaries and internal delineation that these countries can use to say quite clearly what each territory brings to national development. And that is why it is very disingenuous when the PNM speaks of any talk of delineating the borders of Trinidad or Tobago is about secession. Tobagonians have never, most Tobagonians, let me say, most Tobagonians are not in favor of secession. And therefore, as the IDA, I do not stand on a platform representing the IDA spouting secession. I stand on this platform espousing the definition of the borders for Trinidad, Tobago, and the entire country of Trinidad and Tobago as a means of establishing equity in partnership, and a means of clearly saying what each partner brings to the table. Because at this moment, we cannot do that. So we left in a quandary as to what is the fair share for Tobago to have. We shouldn't be at this stage of development, in this era of global development and the global challenges, we should not be unsure of what Trinidad puts on the table, what Tobago puts on the table in making up a Trinidad and Tobago. We are partners in development. And as partners in development, however we define and however we develop Trinidad as an island and Tobago as an island, is not just to the benefit of us as individual islands, but to the benefit of us as a unified state, a unified republic state. So I want that to go down, as the old people would say, go down and we crow. Let that go down and we crow. Whenever we are talking defining Tobago's border, throw out of your mind immediately any talk of secession. And instead, keep very focused at the heart of the discussion. It is all about practically ensuring that each partner knows what it is bringing to the table in development. Developing Tobago, investing in Tobago, is not just about investing in Tobago for Tobago's sake. It's about investing in Tobago so that it comes on par with Trinidad, so that we can walk side by side as we develop the economy and the nation that is Trinidad and Tobago. So let that sink in. Tobago's cry for autonomy is not about separation. It's about establishing true partnership in this walk that we are in. And so therefore, I call out again the PNM to stop this disingenuous talk. Stop this political maneuvering. Stop this political dangling carrots on a stick. At this point in time, where Tobago's autonomy requires all voices of Tobagonians, wherever we may be, in a unified expression of what Tobago truly desires, now is not time for those kind of maneuvering for political games. So stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. The Innovative Democratic Alliance, therefore, calls for a true, comprehensive redesign of our Constitution. The talk of taking little and live long, or the talk of something better than nothing. It is not a perfect bill. The bills are not perfect, but they move in the right direction. How long are we moving in the right direction? When will we get to the destination? And it begs of me to ask this question. If it is for a truth that the bills that were sent down to Parliament are the bills that are before the JSC, unchanged, I need to ask the question, what is the bill that was sent down to Trinidad? Because that is not the bill that came out of the Forum of Political Parties. So some adjustment was made. Where was it made? Was it made in Trinidad? Was it made in Tobago? It's a question we need to ask, and we need to ask it against the background of who was the THA administration in charge when those bills went down. Old people will say, call name, I go whistle. So I wonder if I could whistle when I say PNM. It was a PNM administration in Tobago that sent that bill down. And if what is being said down in Trinidad is that these bills came into the JSC untouched, but as they were sent to the Parliament, then we really need to ask the question, what was sent? And it raises the issue of how disingenuous the People's National Movement is, critiquing and maneuvering for political gains at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, based on that discussion, one can say that these bills that are currently before us do not encapsulate the essence of what Tobagonians have defined as true autonomy for them. One that should bring equity in the status between the islands. One that should allow for Tobago to make its decision without unnecessary interference and clawback from the cabinet. One that allows us to know what our borders are and what we bring to the table of development, and therefore being able to determine the rightful share of the national resources that should come to our development to bring Tobago on par, especially now, and our ability to manage those infrastructural areas that are critical to the successful development of our Tobago economy, to the benefit of the Trinidad and Tobago economy. We need to be very clear, very purposeful, very decisive. Let's not play and allow others to dangle carrots before us every time we are going into a political season. And putting before Tobagonians, if you don't take it now, you may never get it. If we take it now, when would we address it again to make sure we are continuing in the right direction? Another 20 years? And will it take another 10 years to go through a JSC process before we can get it finally right? I don't think that those who have walked this way before us and have labored so far will hold us in high regard if that is the approach we are taking. So Tobago, these bills do not address the very call for autonomy that Tobagonians have espoused. They have fallen woefully short. And if in 2014, the Forum of Political Parties could have done that extensive consultation with the people of Tobago and Trinidad in 4 months. 4 months. After waiting 10 years from 2014. What is 4 additional months to wait to get it right? And to make sure that when we get our autonomy, we don't have to be running back to make sure we didn't do this, we didn't do other. 4 months is nothing after waiting for 10 years. So my pronouncement and the pronouncement of the IDA on these issues, those bills are woefully lacking. They need to wheel and come again. Wheel and come again. And this is a fresh generation of Tobagonians, a fresh generation of Trinbagonians. Their voices need to be heard because this is a future for them, not just the generation that gave the efforts of the bill so far from 2014. This is the time to give the next generation the opportunity to weigh in. So, on that issue of Tobago autonomy, it doesn't cut the board at all. So I want to leave it here on that topic for now and ask if there are any questions. Okay. At this point in time, I want to take a little opportunity to reach out to a fellow community member. You know, the IDA has been in the field. Some wonder what we have been doing. We have been in the field. We have been working. We have been hearing from persons, and we have been doing our work. And tonight, or should I say this evening, we want to share with the general public how your gift, your involvement through our Paid Forward project, where Tobagonians are helping Tobagonians, is benefiting a fellow Tobagonians. So we would like to hand over tonight, this evening, the work coming out of our fundraising efforts to a community member who would come forward to receive a walker to assist with her mobility challenge. I'm going to ask Dr. Soyafad Angus to deal with the presentation and probably just to say a few words. Yes, just 2 words as she hands over. Okay, so on behalf of the IDA, Ms. Dawn, we are reaching out to share with you what fellow Tobagonians are reaching out to share with fellow Tobagonians. And we present this walker to you to assist you in keeping your dignity in moving about and doing the good work that you have been doing. So we hand over this walker to you. And I want to thank our sponsors very much. Thank you for participating in the fundraising effort to continue to assist fellow Tobagonians. You'll be seeing us around still. It's all about being our brother's keeper. Right. It's all about being our brother's keeper, to make sure each of us are taken care of as we walk the journey. No one will be left behind. So as we continue to reach out to each other, I implore Tobagonians, corporate Tobagonians, individuals, lend a helping hand and extend your support to fellow Tobagonians who are in need. Thank you so much. So, I want to take the opportunity now to change course a little bit. and to move back into the discussions. And I want us to look at the issue of the recent JSC, which is the Joint Select Committee findings on the Division of Infrastructure and the Public Accounts Committee. And today, I am not here to talk about or to bash an administration or an individual. What I am choosing it to highlight is not about one administration. It's not about one fiasco. It's not about one failure. In fact, we are talking here about a deeper systemic problem. A broken system of governance that allows for incompetence and corruption to thrive, regardless of which administration is in charge. We've seen it time and time again. The infamous Ring-Bang project under the Ho Choy Charles administration. A project that left most Tobagonians shaking their head at the wasted resources and broken promises. The zipline fiasco under the PNM's THA administration, where accountability and transparency was just thrown out the door with that project. And under this current administration, we are seeing a contractor awarded a $189 million contract, a new contract, despite failings on a previous project, despite failings on a project that, according to the revelation from the JSC, the THA was forced to break the scope of the contract, which was to be a bolt arrangement, and therefore no payments were supposed to be made to that contractor until the job was finished. The administration having to break that arrangement to make payment to the contractor to finish the job. And while that is happening, that contractor still got a new contract for $189 million. A Tobago money, when he had proven himself to be very inefficient and unreliable. We need to ask ourselves the question, what then was used in the due diligence to determine that that contractor could have managed the project in the manner that was explained to Tobago people by the Chief Secretary over and over again, and even by his Secretary for Works and Infrastructure? So, we are seeing that the system allows for inefficiency to reign unchecked. It is allowing for seeming corruption to reign unchecked. And therefore, we have to ask ourselves, why are we continuing with broken systems? And even as we are talking about autonomy, why are we not ensuring that in our cry for autonomy, we are also looking at systems, mechanisms that ensures that accountability and transparency are clear? Why aren't we clamoring for governance structures that ensures that? But you know what is even worse than these happening? These incidents of inefficiency and apparent corruption happening? What is even worse is that the Public Accounts Committee, the committee that is supposed to be the oversight on these projects, we are here a peep out of them. And this is a committee that is being chaired by the minority leader. For 3 years, we are here a peep. But suddenly, at the JSC, we are hearing that there are difficulties in this, for this particular committee to meet. So 3 years, there has been nothing. Tobagonians have not gone oversight of the various projects that have been happening. And we only knowing about it when the mark bus and everything now out in the open. As people would say, something hit the fan. So we would have never know about it if there was not a JSC. But even though there was a JSC, if we look at the track records of JSCs, JSCs basically operate as toothless bulldog. There is bluster, there is guffing up, there is talking down to, but at the end of the day, after recommendations are put forward, and sometimes reports are put out, there is no implementation of anything for accountability. So it's just there, languishing in the open. Why are we continuing with structures and systems that do not afford us true oversight, true accountability? Why are we propping up and allowing to perpetuate systems and mechanisms that allow politicians and leaders to run rampant without checks and balances? Fellow Tobagonians and Trinbagonians, let me go into some local parlance here. You see that we need, as old people would say, a cocktail, and I'm being politically correct here. We need to speak to ourselves quite seriously. We are continuing to allow running free, unchecked mechanisms that don't suit us, governance structures that don't suit us. Therefore, when the IDA makes claims and calls for constitutional reform, comprehensive constitutional reform, as we have been calling for since January of this year, why do you think we are taking it that seriously? Because we see the dangers. We see what it is doing. And in a country where we're always complaining, Tobago is underfunded, we're not getting enough money, or even central government is saying we don't have money. We don't have enough money, yet for some reason we can't seem to account for what it is, a $3.6 billion or $3.4 billion with central government operation. So it is not just happening in Tobago, it is happening in Trinidad as well. So there is not just need for changing the governance structure in Tobago, there's also a need for changing the government structure in the nation. In Trinidad, we need comprehensive constitutional reform. So that little puppy show that was done recently with constitutional reform that didn't even take into consideration Tobago's offering of what it sees is necessary in constitutional reform. Who are we trying to fool? Let me tell all political parties out there, including ourselves as the IDA, the people will know how to talk with their fingers very soon, and they will speak very loudly and very clear. So, to Mr. Minority Leader, pull up your socks. It's not about complaining that you couldn't get the committee to meet. You were voted and put into office to perform a duty. You need to do everything that is in your power to execute your duty. So I'm calling on you to get with the program. Get with the program. And to the rest of the country, to the administration at central government level, to the administration at the THA level. Stop abdicating your responsibility, especially Mr. Chief Secretary. Champion Tobago's autonomy. Call the people together. Let us as one voice The IDA has made this claim. It has nothing to do with just the politics of it. This is Tobago's business. And you are in the leadership chair at this point in time. You need to lead. You need to lead. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need constitutional reform. We need to rebalance the governance structure to ensure there's accountability and there's transparency. We need enhanced oversight mechanism. We need leaders who are truly committed to the people they are intended to serve. So I want to thank you for listening and open up for any questions that you may have. Okay, if there are no questions, I would like to call to the podium to deal with the other issues, Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus. Dr. Angus.
So, let me say, well done, Kay Trotman, well done. Thank you for that contribution. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone, members of the media, and of course, our listening and viewing public. Thank you so much for being with us today as we discuss Tobago's business. And I move on today to speak on a matter that is quite troubling to the people out there. And so today, the IDA stands in solidarity with the public officers and citizens of this country, and not just as members of the Innovative Democratic Alliance. We are deeply concerned about the glaring injustices that we are witnessing. At a time when so many people are struggling to make ends meet, when our economy feels fragile and uncertain, the idea of approving exorbitant pay hikes for the very officials meant to lead us is a betrayal. The rising cost of living, the long hours spent stretching every dollar, and the frustration of facing empty promises. Our foreign exchange markets are in crisis, and many businesses are struggling to access the currency they need to operate. Jobs are scarce, income stagnant, and yet somehow our leaders believe that this is the right time to reward themselves with a 47% pay hike. This is clearly a slap in the face to our people. The Prime Minister's salary is set to leap from $59,680 to a staggering $87,847 per month. That's nearly $30,000 extra every month. Money that could go towards improved schools. The minister says she don't have enough money to fix the schools. As more money for Tobago, or more money for food cards, to really treat with those vulnerable who could hardly put food on their table, or even those who are seeking costly medical procedures. And if that wasn't enough, let's talk about a back pay of $1 million. Really. Meanwhile, public officers, the backbone of this country, have been offered a measly 4%. 4%. How do they expect anyone to survive on that when the cost of groceries, transportation, and basic utilities keep rising? We have heard of the cries of nurses working tirelessly for long hours, teachers going the extra mile with limited resources, and daily rated workers and others putting their lives on the line to support this country. All for salaries that barely stretch to the end of the month. Yet they are told, be grateful for 4%. Be grateful for 4%? 4% as against 47%? How can they be grateful when our leaders are pushing for luxury while so many are trying to just survive? To the Parliament, we urge you, think carefully before approving these unjust salaries. Yes, approve the raises for public servants on the list. They are the ones who truly deserve the raise. And I'm especially pleased to see that the clerks of houses, both in Trinidad and in Tobago, are finally being brought in line with their peers in the permanent secretaries and in the administrators of Tobago, that their pay checks will finally align to be the same. To the Prime Minister and his government, it's up to you how you want to play this. We are aware that you have enough votes to do whatever you want with it. And to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we remind you that you must have an appropriate response to whatever decision is made. You must demand better of your leaders, not just for yourselves, but for generations to come. We deserve leadership that lifts us up, not one that stands on our backs. Let's not be fooled. Let's not be silent. The fight for fairness begins now. I will pause for a minute to take any questions on that area before I move forward to truly the topic of the afternoon. The IDA has always been steadfast in our commitment to prioritizing Tobago's development and ensuring that the island contributes meaningfully to the national purse while walking side by side with Trinidad in mutual respect and cooperation. Initially, we were prepared to foster collaboration with any representative that the people would choose to go into the national political arena without our direct involvement in the general elections. However, recent developments have compelled us to re-evaluate this position. As you heard from the extensive and holistic assessment of Tobago's autonomy by our very articulate Kay Trotman, the PNM continues to trample on our wants and wishes for autonomy. They continuously feed the public misinformation on the bills with an intent to fool the people, while the current THA administration has thrown in the towel entirely, leaving a void that cannot be ignored. 2 weeks ago, a whole 2 weeks, at our last press conference, the IDA called on the Chief Secretary to step up and lead Tobago on this issue. We haven't gotten a call, we haven't heard a peep from the administration on how they're going about this and intend to bring the people together in unity. Since the IDA's last press conference, though, we got calls from unexpected corners. The phone calls, the messages, and encouragement we received from supporters across the political divide. And even some undecideds have called and said they have made up their minds. These calls have been overwhelming. The people are speaking loudly, and the message is loud and clear. IDA, you are our only hope. So, we are answering the call. We are not going to sit back and watch Tobago's future be decided by neophytes and those who have proven to be untrustworthy. We are not going to let Tobago's representatives in Parliament become dumb dogs in Jerusalem, silent and powerless to speak and act on Tobago's behalf. No more towing party lines from central government. No more forgetting the people who sent them there in the first place. In light of these realities, the IDA has resolved to enter the 2025 general elections. It's time for a new type of leadership, bold, unapologetic, and laser-focused. The IDA isn't here to play politics. We are here to deliver results. We want representatives who are Tobago thinkers and nation builders, not just party puppets. We want representatives who will stand up for Tobago's rights and the rights of communities across Trinidad and Tobago. While in the House of Representatives, and we don't need them to just bow their heads and follow the tune of the pipers. It is time for a new approach. We cannot expect to have different results if we have the same strategies in going forward. But we cannot do this without you. Tobago, this is your moment too. This is your chance to change the direction of our island. This is your opportunity to elect representatives who will speak boldly, act decisively, and represent you wholeheartedly. It is our time. It is your time. It is time for the people of Tobago to stop being spectators in our own destiny. It's time to stand up and say, we want better, we deserve better, and we will vote for better. The IDA is ready to fight for Tobago in Parliament. And with your support, we will win and Tobago will win ultimately. We must do this together. Let's make 2025 the year Tobago's voice roars in Parliament. Thank you. So let me take the opportunity to thank you members of the media for being here, all those who are listening and viewing online, and we will be looking out for your comments, your contributions, and thank you again to Kate Trotman. I am very proud of you today. Thank you.